mine, but just...
Good evening and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. I'm Richard and I'm joined by Kevin, Mr. KT AVFC himself. And I've not been able to show my face around Newcastle today, unfortunately, because yesterday was an absolute horror show. My son was not a good luck charm, unfortunately, and our curse at St James's Park wasn't able to be lifted. We're not going to focus too much on that game today, Kev. We spoke earlier. We're going to do a little bit of reaction to that, talk about the general issues that are the same issues that are occurring at Villa at the moment, but also try and put that into a spin of what Unai Emery can do. And we've produced a 5-point plan of what he needs to do immediately as soon as he arrives through the door. So, Kev, how are you doing this evening, mate?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Not bad. It's still a bit painful, isn't it, from yesterday? It's the hope that kills you, particularly you being sat right up at the back there, watching it, thinking with your lad what a day out it will be. And I mean, couldn't have been much worse, really, could it?
Absolutely not, mate. And after I don't know if you've been to Newcastle away before, and anyone who has been knows what I'm talking about here. But it's like climbing Ben Nevis to get up to that away end. You've got about 30 flights of stairs to get up there, and then we were like right at the back as well, so more stairs to get up. So and then they went on to produce a performance like that. You'd think that they'd have a little bit more thought. If the players had to go into the stands like the away fans have to do, maybe they would have maybe they'd appreciate and maybe played with a little bit more passion. But yeah, it was difficult game, difficult game. And what's so frustrating is that, and what's so hard for me, obviously living up here, is Newcastle and Villa have been kind of on a similar pathway, over the years, and had bits of rivalry, had kind of cross paths, both been in the Championship, both had bad owners, both got aspirations to be big clubs and move up. And in 12 months, the difference between the two sides was so evident yesterday. It's light. We're light years away from it at the moment. I guess the only positive is that they've had such a transformation in 12 months that we're just hoping that we can kind of have that. But yeah, it's just crazy how much better they are than us at the moment, and it's so frustrating.
Yeah, I looked. I mean, I've got the table on the 29th of November last year. So obviously that's not 11 months ago, not even 12 months ago, and they basically played 13-1-0. So look. I think we're both on the same page with this. I don't think we need to dissect it too much because, hence, when we spoke earlier about this pod, I was like, listen, I think we're going to be saying the same things we've been saying for months now. And it's going to be, which I'm sure we will address in some of the 5-point plan anyway. But what else is there to say? I think Rachel makes the point nicely. Demolition. Emery's got a big job in his hands, and we'll certainly talk about that shortly. But it's not just Newcastle I think about in terms of how far away we are from them, because obviously it shows what a good manager can do, and there's a bit of hope. And look, who's to say they're going to be there at the end of the season? But I don't think they'll be outside of the top 8 based on what they're doing, and that is certainly big progression. I look at teams like Man City and Tottenham, and to think back, under the O'Neill era, when we were vying with those teams for fourth, fifth, sixth spot. It was a bit of a toss up, wasn't it, between Villa, Spurs, and Man City about who was going to get that last Champions League spot for a couple of seasons. Mm-hmm. And it just felt like, if you think about the decisions the club have made over the last 15 years, the trajectory of the club's taken, we've fallen, and then now we've fallen even below. Not just a Newcastle, but a West Ham, a Leicester, a Crystal Palace, and teams like Fulham have established themselves in the top 10 of the league. And I just think that there's such a big job on Emery's hands, but I think it's obviously wider than that, really, because you shouldn't be going to Newcastle, who admittedly they're riding high, and getting beaten 4-0 when it could have been 7 or 8-0. And that's that, no team, you get freak results, right? You get Brentford, Man United, freak result. That's not going to happen that often. Brighton, Chelsea, to a degree, is a bit of a freak result. But, still Brighton are a decent team. But Aston Villa, ambitions for top 10, top 8 Premier League should not be losing 4-0 and being lucky to come away with a 4-0. And more importantly, putting in a performance like that, because it was just absolutely disgraceful what I saw.
Yeah, well, I think obviously we'll touch on a bit of on the game, and obviously being in the stands, we could see what was happening, but there's a few points really. I think there's the capitulation which you've put there. A fairly solid first half. Looking slightly threatening. I thought Leon Bailey looked very really bright in the first half. One or two others were pretty good, and we seem to be doing quite well in midfield. But then it was obviously the penalty at the end of the first half. But we in the stands were all positive, thinking we can definitely get something out of this game. We're still well in it, but the kind of sloppiness from that second goal, conceding the goal from a set piece, and one tactical tweak was basically Joe Linton was playing out wide left in the first half, which I'd highlighted on a couple of Newcastle podcasts previously, that I thought that would be a surprise if Eddie Howe did that, because Joe Linton absolutely dominated us last season in that central midfield area.
Yeah.
He literally changed it for 15 minutes of the second half, and lo and behold, what happens? He absolutely dominates us in central midfield again. And we're just so weak, and we're just weak physically, we're weak mentally. And it also highlighted you can get a slight bounce with a caretaker manager for one game, but then you've announced your new manager, the players are playing for a caretaker manager. What's the accountability, other than the fact that Unai Emery is coming in? But essentially it'll be a fresh slate for all the players. So yeah, it was kind of like you needed that leadership there to be able to tweak things, or them to be whoever was the figurehead, or whoever was that manager. But I think it just highlighted the caretaker manager situation that we had. And finally, Newcastle at home, again, I pointed this out, is the reason why we lauded over that 4-0 win for us last week was because we scored, and then we scored again, and we kept going for it. And that's such an exception to the rule with Villa. Usually we get a goal and we just sit back and just try and hold on to it. Newcastle get a goal and they go again, and they go again, and they go again, and they go again, and they're just relentless. Where's that with Villa? Where is that with Villa? Like, we never do that. And that goes again to the character. That goes again to that ethic. That goes again to that kind of fortress of Villa Park. And that comes down to everyone. That comes down to players, staff, and supporters. Newcastle supporters, you can't hear them very well up where we are, but it's a cauldron. It's intimidating. Villa Park's not intimidating for any team to go to, but that comes from the supporters and the players. Like, the players aren't relentless. The players don't just keep going and going and going and going to score more goals. And the whole culture of the club has to change. And that's the biggest thing that Eddie Howe and Newcastle have done.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, let's be clear. I don't want to be disrespectful here, because they've just absolutely tanked us 4-0. But, we briefly mentioned it on the last pod, Willock, they've got Longstaff, they've got Wilson. Wilson's a good player. But,
Wilson's the best striker in the Premier League at the moment. The best English centre forward in the Premier League at the moment.
Yeah, well, better than Kane?
At the moment, yeah.
Okay. I mean, listen, I think he's a good player. I think, we were after him, it would have been good.
Joe Linton's one of the best at what he does in the Premier League, easily.
Yeah, I think he came in for a big price tag, and he's been converted really, really well. I'm not taking away from Callum Wilson. I just think that I don't think he's consistently been at this level, right? But you've got, Almiron's obviously been very, very inconsistent. They've got players that have played it, even that defence. I know they've got Botman. Trippier's been a massive signing, but, like Shaw was, I never thought he was that as good as he's been this season. Dan Burn I like Dan Burn a lot. I think he's a great player, but, what is he, late 20s? Again, has he ever really shown that level of performance? So I look at it and I think to myself, like, particularly that midfield, Almiron, Longstaff, Willock. Willock was getting a bit of grief from Newcastle fans not long ago. Making our midfield, and let's not forget our midfield, supposedly is, got Belgian international in Dendoncker, got a Brazilian international in Luiz, you've got an Argentinian international in Buendia, You'd think on paper that midfield would eat that one for breakfast. And
they're weak though, mate. They're weak. They're weak in every
that's the
aspect
issue.
of the word, character-wise and physically. They're just weak. And I've said this for so many years. We've got weak characters and weak mentality.
And that has to go down to the recruitment as well. And this is also where I think that previous managers, I think I tell you who I feel a little bit sorry for. Is Steven Gerrard. And I never thought I'd say that, but to go from that performance 4-0, he must have been thinking, "Oh my God, like I look like an absolute mug here." And listen, he needs to take the criticism that we've all given him countless times for, toxicity that was around the club, for the lack of ideas, for the lack of plan, for the tactical inflexibility that he showed. But to go from that to then perform like against Newcastle, you can see that he must have had a job on his hands with some of those players. Now, he was there for long enough. I'm sure he would have an opportunity to change it. For example, if all reports are that he said no to Sarr, then there's an option you could have had for someone else to change. But as we've said many, many times, it's a combination of management, coaching. Eddie Howe is a great example of what can be done with a good coach. What Eddie Howe's done with that team compared to what Steve Bruce did with a lot of those players. Because let's be clear, they've spent a lot of money, but their main outlay, Isak's been injured for quite a bit of time.
Yeah.
And
also he wasn't, he needed time to settle in. He wasn't pulling up any trees when he was in there. And I agree. It's that's why you have to take a few positives from that fact that that team can be turned around so much so that I personally think they've got a real good chance of top four. But and that just shows you what it is. What can happen if you get a good culture and a good mentality about you. But at the moment we've seen it. We saw it against Fulham. We saw it against Bournemouth. We saw it against Crystal Palace. We saw it in countless other games, even countless games under Dean Smith, where we've got this soft underbelly. We can't come back from going a goal down. When we concede one, we concede quite quickly afterwards. We can't seem to react to any sort of adversity. We've got no leaders on the pitch, as I've said so many times, other than Tyrone Mings, who will actually call players out. And as I've said before, like, who's in the dressing room pushing people up against the wall or getting in people's faces? We've got a game. We're at war against this other team, and we just lay down.
Yeah, it is.
It's absolutely embarrassing. It's an embarrassment.
I almost think Aston Villa, without getting kind of too much of like a culture war topic conversation on a football podcast, but I almost think Aston Villa are indicative of like this culture of, the soft underbelly that a lot of people have got now. Criticism, wanting it easy. I don't see them putting the hardest of hard yards in for their team and for their teammates and for their supporters. And one thing we've not touched on is, you're annoyed, right? How long did it take you to get from home to the ground?
10 minutes.
10 minutes. I mean, some people have travelled 5, 6, 7 hours. If they're Villa fans,
usually that's me. Usually that's me.
Usually
But this
it is
time,
absolutely. Yeah. And you've been on the end of some beatings, from
it took
travelling.
me 7 hours to get back from Bournemouth.
Well,
but
absolutely.
Yeah. But you've got bloody, like, you're 100% right, mate. And Coutinho is a prime example of this. Like, he came on the other night, yesterday, and every time he looks like he's got a run to close someone down. It's like you're asking him. It's like when you're asking your teenager to tidy up their bedroom. It's like, oh, have I got to run again?
Yeah.
And it's like his head goes down. He just half makes a run to try and tackle someone. It's like, get off the pitch.
Do you know what's also makes me think about this as well? My lads team got a bit of a pasting today. He scored a couple, actually, great free kick, but like a few of them, they got a bit of a rollicking at the end from the coach about. And the main theme of the rollicking was attitude. You're not going to win every game. This is an under-9s team in Birmingham. You're not going to win every game, lads. But the attitude was bad from a few of them, dropping their heads, calling each other out in the wrong kind of way, not tracking, not working hard. And I was sat there listening to him, and he deliberately brought the kids over to the parents, so basically they could hear if in case any of the kids sort of moaned about it afterwards. But I was sat there thinking, this sounds like Villa. Literally, I was putting this in my mind, like, there's not enough heart. And I'm talking about kids, not under 9s, not enough heart, not working for each other. Attitude is off and negative and, not pushing it. And this team that were not better than them, by the way, absolutely destroyed him, and it's just frustrating. And I'm getting frustrated watching it from my lads under 19. This is a Premier League football team that are putting their balls on the table and saying we're going to get to Europe. We are. We've got this hot young manager from Rangers. You know, we've got real ambitions for the stadium, and women's teams. You know, obviously really improved. The academy's obviously been really good. Everything that we're doing as a team is like this. But where's the fight and the heart and desire? Because that's all you want. That is all that you ever want, basically.
We've got a Halloween streaker.
That was brilliant.
Joined. Yeah,
that was brilliant. I look at, you know, when you watch a team in the FA Cup, you remember last year when Kidderminster Harriers nearly beat West Ham?
Yeah.
Kidderminster obviously been localish to it, particularly you where you grew up, you know, not too far. How can a non-league team nearly beat a Premier League team? In all of those situations, it's usually around fight, character, heart. It's the absolute minimum you expect. And we laid down. And we rolled over. And it's embarrassing. I mean, that goal, that Joe Linton goal, fuck me. Sorry for my language, but like, honestly, what are they doing? The defending?
Well, we'll get into, because some of those players we're going to talk about in the 5-point plan. So I think I like we're getting in the comments, and I'll read some out. It's pointless because us going over the goals. It's pointless us going over.
Yeah, read the comments. Let's get into the plan. They don't need any more of this. Everything we're saying, they're definitely thinking so.
Yeah. Tiwan, hello guys. Aside from the effects of the match, hope you guys are doing okay. Yeah.
Not too bad, thanks, Tiwan. Thanks.
A little bit tired still. Went out still after the game last night. So yeah. Moley boy, thanks for joining. Looked like Gerard was still in charge yesterday. I think we've covered that. I think it's more a fact of, you know, some of the players or the majority of the players now need to take some long, hard looks at themselves, as well as, you know, managers, because we can't just keep going through manager after manager after manager. It's at some point you've got to look at, well, what are these players delivering? And I think Sam mentioned it the other day, like about the ceilings. You know, where is the ceiling of a lot of these players? You know, who has got the capacity to really improve, or who is at their kind of best, and then when they're below that, they're basically like championship level.
Yep.
Yeah. Barry Olsen was awful once he came on. The confidence drain from the team. Yeah, he wasn't the best. He wasn't the best, and yeah, you got to be thinking goal from the set piece goal. Maybe it's a bit of confusion with who's going to claim across or whatever. I'm not sure, but even so, the marking was just awful. Thinking Villa got more individual quality than Newcastle, but Newcastle were by far the better team. That was kind of what you were intimating, Kev.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that.
Deontay, I'm sure Emery watched that Newcastle game about 22 times and will have plenty of points to share with the team on Tuesday when he takes charge. I'm expecting a much better performance next Sunday. Well, yeah, let's hope so. Let's hope for some actual shape as well to the team, because once we went 2-0 down, we just lost all shape, didn't we?
Yeah. I think that was the worst thing about it for me, was the capitulation. I mean, if you think about all 4 goals, they were all within a relatively short space of time, because obviously it was right at the end of the first half. I know we had the 10 minutes injury time, obviously for what happened with Martinez. And then what was it within probably within about a 25-minute period, they scored their 4 goals. They hit the frame of the post twice. They had other chances. You know, Martinez made a couple of saves. I mean, it literally could have been 8 or 9. 8 or 9. I mean, that is... and we just gave it to them.
Yeah, I mean, they're bringing like Jacob Murphy off the bench, and he's ripping out fullbacks a new one. He's like, honestly, it was just, they're just pouring forwards. You know, we haven't mentioned either that we didn't have a single shot on target all game.
No, embarrassing, absolutely embarrassing. And that is, well, we'll talk about that in the plan as well. But yeah. But get through the rest of these comments, and then we'll
Unai has a massive job on his hands and can't expect much until next season. Hopefully, he'll steady the ship. Simon, thanks for joining, mate. Big job for the new manager, as he has at least 5 of those who played on Saturday who are not up to the task, and in his opinion, need to improve a lot or be replaced. Me and my mate was chatting, as we both said, on paper, Newcastle's team isn't anything special. It's just Eddie Howe has put his stamp on that team.
Correct.
Yeah. can't lie, their players weren't that good. It was more down to Villa players playing pathetically. Well, yeah, I think like we said, I think we were in it up until just after half time, and yeah, I think Newcastle stepped it up for 15 minutes, as I said, when Joe Linton went into central midfield, and that won them the game. Spot on, Rich. Week away from home and cave in too easily. You're spot on for Moley Boy. Eddie Howe has galvanised the team and improved the mentality. Exactly. Yeah. Coutinho, but in slightly less better terms. Biggest waste of money. T1, as I said, guys, if Emery can do anything with this team and we can become a consistent top 10 and fighting for Europe in years to come, I'll just support a local team. Yeah, we know we'll be there with you. Our team on paper looks a hell of a lot better than Newcastle's, but these players clearly don't care anymore. You would think they would want to impress the new manager. Such a disappointing result. Missed the basics all second half. Poor passing, lack of ability to hold onto the ball, poor defensive shape, runners left, huge gaps all over, no responsibility from the players. Me and Mark actually met up for the game. It was great to meet him properly face to face. But apart from all of those points that he's made, the performance was actually pretty good. Giggs, thanks for joining. Just when we thought we'd figured out a shape and way of playing, like against Brentford, we completely reset and show zero fight. How does that happen within a space of a week?
Absolutely.
It's character. Yeah, Mark there, no shots all second half. I know the Newcastle result was shy, but that could have easily happened in both the last two games, to be honest. Keep the faith. Well, yeah, that's why we're trying to have this 5-point plan in a second to try and get a bit more positivity out there, because it's what we can cling to. How did Luiz and Dendoncker play? From the game, Luiz was really good first half.
I agree.
But then he got bullied second half, and then when it got to 2-3-0, he reverted to basically back to the Douglas Luiz, who just holds onto the ball for ages, tries to roll it under his foot, and just like play his own game. Dendoncker looked like he hadn't played hadn't been fully match fit for the past 6 months, and looked like the game was catching up with him. Like he blew his gasket for basically after the first half.
Yeah.
So he needs a lot of fitness. Would you agree with that, mate?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that Wolves fans were certainly not saying what a player when we signed Dendoncker. I worked with a few Wolves fans, but I thought he could be that, that shithouse type defensive midfielder. But I don't know. I mean, he's Belgian international. He's clearly a decent player, but I still don't know whether he's the DM that we need.
Yeah. The jury's still definitely out with him, mate. Yeah, definitely. Really random reviews. He's back on. Evening, fellas. And Gary's back in as well. I think Emery is our last hope. And did I ask for a refund? No, not yet, mate. Not yet. I think they have been damaged by Gerrard, and will improve soon. Well, yeah, let's hope so. We're getting some points in really about questions asking about sort of players we can keep and what does Emery do. So let's move into these 5-point plans, mate. And I know you mentioned them earlier, so.
Yeah, 24 minutes longer than we wanted to talk about the Newcastle game.
Sorry. Let's get into it.
Yeah.
So, first of all, your first point was, let me just get rid of this capitulation. I don't want to button about that. And we've talked about this a lot, and I think one of the points was about, we thought we'd found a formation and a bit of a style of play after one game, and then it's totally sort of ruined after the first game and moving into the Newcastle game. So, but point one is, mate, establish a true style of play. Talk to me.
Yeah, well, look, we've talked about this a lot. A lot of other people, who are Villa fans would know that our identity seems to be severely lacking. But my view is like, who are we? Sound a bit like Dealey Smith, don't I? Who are you? Who are we? What do we stand for? I watched a bit of the Blues game the other day. Painful, isn't it? Yeah, doing pretty well, actually. And they were talking about what John Eustace has done. I mean, to be fair, he's done a really good job. A big QPR. I'm sure Mick Bill weren't too happy with the grief he was getting, and Big Tim as well. But like he's got like words from their song that they sing. I won't mention it on here, but he's got words from the song around the club. They talked about on the commentary how he's really trying to get them to feel like proud to play for that team, to really feel proud for it. And there was also commentary in the stream I was watching. By the way, the stream of the Newcastle game, I don't know if anyone else was on it, was horrendous. It was like they both were married to Newcastle players, like the way they were talking. It was horrendous, mate. One thing you didn't have to deal with was the commentary. There's one point when I think it was we got a tackle given for a high boot, and their player basically was knee height with his head. I was like, this is ridiculous. And I was like, oh yeah, that was a high boot. Anyway, I digress. They were talking a lot about how Eddie Howe's mantra is our intensity is our identity. And you look at Aston Villa and you realise now that last week against Brentford, and then we talk about the last time was probably Leeds away, they are freak results for us. They really are. They are. Southampton at home was the freak home result of the season. The next best other home game I can remember was probably coming back from 2-0 down to beat Man United, to try to draw Man United. Mm-hmm. And there was a bit of fight in the second half and Coutinho's debut. I don't know what we stand for. I don't know who we are. I don't know what's our style of play. Where's the pride in wearing the shirt as well? And not just our style of play, but our different styles of play. Because Emery's known for changing his system, and as in around what he's got in front of him. Which, to be fair to Aaron Danks, I can see why he didn't change a winning team, but he didn't set that team up to play Newcastle. He set that team up to play Brentford, and he just happened to keep the same team. So I just think the players look clueless. They look clueless. They look disinterested. They look like they're not good enough. And I do think as well, like coaching-wise, talk a lot about Eddie Howe and how he's done an amazing job with some of these players, and we can't write all the players off. But I'm at the point where I've already written a few of the players off. And I think again, it's a combination. It's not 100% or 0%. It's somewhere in between. I think some of the players need to be shifted on. But whatever we do, we have to identify a style of play and also a bit of heart and fight in that team. And they have to be proud. All this talk about getting a new badge, what's the fucking point if they don't want to feel like they want to fight for it?
Mm-hmm. If they don't it's all fluff, isn't it? It's all
fluff.
It's what Perslow does really well, but it's not backed up with any substance, is it? It's got to be backed up with some substance. I think I totally agree. Just to back up on that before we go to point two, I think when I talk about, someone like Eloise, who's a really good player, don't get me wrong, but when I talk about him, moving away from clearly what he's been told to do, to dictate the pace of the game, to move the ball quickly, when it takes, us going 1 or 2-0 down for him to revert back to playing his own game, that shows a weak character. When you've got Leon Bailey who had a reasonable first half, but in general has played out quite well at home or done a few things at home. But when he's asked to run back, he suddenly seems to be 10 yards slower than when he's actually running forwards. That shows a weak mentality. That shows not being a part of the team. So then that spreads throughout the whole thing. And then you got, someone like Tyrone Mings who throws himself in front of every ball. He's like, well, why should I do that? If he's not running back, if he's not tracking his fullback, or Ezri Konsa, it always seems to be everybody else's fault, and he never seems to make any mistakes when he's not following his man or he's not clearing the ball properly. Like he never holds his hands up and says, that was me, lads. I'm sorry about that. There's too many players in there that were probably what you would call shithouses who just play for themselves. Like you said, not interested in playing for the club, not interested in playing for the badge. And we did have that when we went on that run through the championship, but so much of that was centered around one man who I won't mention his name. But it needs to be changed. So point two, mate, is onto making those tough decisions.
I think this is,
and I've highlighted a couple of players there that you were talking about before, Danny Ings and Matty Cash. But there's more involved in those tough decisions. But what did you mean by that in terms of making those big decisions?
Well, I think, look, as much as we talked about Gerrard, how the confidence had dipped, how certainly there was tactical naivety and flexibility, whatever you want to call it. There's no doubt that the players have all underperformed, not just since the Gerrard signings, but even a lot of the Smith signings have underperformed. based on either what they were like before or, you know, even if they were fairly sort of unknown, they've underperformed in terms of expectations. And I don't think you can doubt that. The squad isn't good enough. I think that's just a fact. We're too weak, and we haven't got enough pace, and not enough heart. And as you talked about already with likes of the ways, but too many of them down tools at St James's Park. And if you're playing Premier League football, if you're playing under nines football in local Birmingham leagues, if you haven't got any pace in your team and you haven't got any strength in your team, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle. If you're playing Premier League football, it goes, you know, nuclear, doesn't it? It goes crazy. Like, you need to have the ability to compete physically and athletically. And we've been saying this time and time again. We are not strong enough as a team. I look at Buendia, you know, trying to get a free kick. Maybe, to be fair, one of their goals, I think he actually was fouled. But, like, you know, you can argue about that. There was still 3 other goals.
Yeah, you're going down like in hope rather than, you know, it just shows a lack of character almost. And he's probably one who does maybe run around a bit, probably a bit too much really for the sake of the position. But yeah,
I like Buendia, but it does feel like sometimes with Buendia, it's like a really good 15-year-old. Like, that's, you know, a really, really, really talented 15-year-old is playing for the first team because he's so small. And there's some games he just gets bullied. And so does Louise. And so does Bailey. And so does Cash sometimes. And, you know, so does Watkins even more lately as well. And
he was really poor yesterday.
He was horrendous. And I get you can call someone out one week where, oh my God, the players are great. The next week you call them out. I get the inconsistency of that. But that team generally, and it's been the same for a long time now. We've been saying and this is the thing that really still annoys me now. We didn't solve the problem in the last 3 transfer windows. We knew it ages ago.
Yeah, but we've been having this issue. We'll go to some more comments in a minute, and there's a couple regarding the tough decisions. But we've had this problem for ages. We had this Villa engine that we talked about, where we'd had this identity that we'd have players who had this Villa engine or whatever it was. Then we had the Bruce, where we wanted to sign experienced players to get us up, and then we had the you know, the young players coming through, and the model was all that, and then it slightly changed with Gerrard. Like, we just chop and change, like, we just so much. So yeah, the tough decisions need to come from up on high as well. You know, Moley Boy said drop players who don't perform, but then Gaza said if we go behind, we've got absolutely no one on the bench to change a game. And Rachel's made that point. If we drop them, who do we replace them with? You know, we keep seeing Sanson and Nakamba running up and down the line. That's all they ever do. They must be quite high on their Apple Watch step counter, because that's all they ever do.
I was thinking that they've got something with like private healthcare where they need to do a certain amount of steps a day to get like cheap cinema tickets and a Cafe Nero. Like, there's no point. But I was going to say, you talk about Jacob Murphy coming off and changing the game. Not changing the game, but doing things that could have changed the game, being a bit of a spark.
Yeah,
I can't remember the last time.
He's got competition for places, hasn't he? You know,
yeah.
Players who want to get in that team, like we.
Yeah.
I guess again we've said this thing. What is Sanson going to do, or Nakamba going to do, or Archer going to do any worse than any of those players on the pitch? What's Keenan Davis, who's been sent out alone, going to do worse than Danny Ings? Danny Ings didn't touch the ball in the second half.
I know. And I do think as well, like, even though I've been a fierce critic of Nakamba, his technical ability not being good enough. I don't think he's good enough, Nakamba, for the team. But I am firmly convinced that he's our best defensive midfielder.
Yeah,
I'm firmly convinced. Maybe Duncan will get up to speed, and that is after all these windows. Kamara is a good player, but is Kamara is he a dominating 6? I don't think he is. I think he's a good player. He's got real ability, but we need someone who's going to look at what Joe Linton would do. For them.
Honestly, he made our midfielders look like kids.
Yeah, or a Declan Rice or a Rodri type character. You know, someone that's big, physical, athletic, imposing. You know, we saw a bit of it in Don Karachi against Brentford. You know, but so the other tough decision as well is he's got, and I'm sure he will be, but he's got to make some tough decisions around players' futures at the clubs. And, you know, and that is, I like Ings a lot. I think Ings is a good player. I thought he was the best version of himself at Brentford when we were set up in that kind of system. But I do wonder whether at the age he is now, he's obviously had a few injuries in his career. So you could argue that one way, as he played as many games as the other players, maybe not. But, he's the wrong side of 30 now. Look, you look at what Lewandowski does, you look at what Messi's doing, you look at what Ronaldo's doing, you realise that now with the footballer diets and lifestyles, you can go on longer. Is there an opportunity to work with Ings to his strengths to get that striker that could score us 15, 20 goals a season? Is it the system that's mean and the player and the personal means we haven't seen that from him? Maybe. I actually think there's more of a question mark over other strikers, and I'm going to come on to the strikers shortly, but I do think more question mark on those. McGinn, what happens with McGinn? What do we do with him? Because he's been a problem now for a year, and he's captain of the team. I don't think our fullbacks are good enough. I don't think Digne's done anywhere near enough. And I know you can argue that it's still time and he's not been here that long, but I think he's underperformed since we've had him. Ashley Young's 37. I think Cash is too inconsistent. I like his heart and his fight, but I don't think he's good enough.
We like Freddie. Yeah, we like Freddie Gilbert's heart and fight because he was always making last ditch slide tackles. But my question was, why is he having to make those last ditch slide tackles? And it's because his positioning's so bad. And Matty Cash is a bit like that as well. He's a bit last ditch. He's a bit, he's a bit sort of hair raising, isn't he? And he's not a great 1v1 defender, which was much highlighted yesterday at pretty much every opportunity. So
he's not.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, but these are all things that aren't going to be done overnight. So we've got to look at what can Emery do to bring to, like you said, the first point about a system that works with the current players that he's got, and then gradual taking these players out and bringing players in to improve. Now the third point you have is let me just get the banner up. Shopping in the January sales. Now, two players that I've highlighted on this slide indicate how difficult it is in the January sales.
Yeah.
We've got Morgan Sanson in, who was apparently, a fantastic player, but two managers haven't fancied him. And Samata came in January, so that shows you the type of areas that you're shopping in.
Yeah, but also
what
teams that are ambitious.
What do you think you can do?
Well, we did show last year when we managed to get Digne. I know it necessarily hasn't worked out brilliantly so far, but the pedigree of who he was. Coutinho, again, the jury's massively out of Coutinho at the moment, but you can do some stuff. Newcastle bought Trippier in the January window. They bought Chris Wood. I know he's not been brilliant for him, but there are players out there. If you've got financial muscles to flex, you can do something. I think there's a couple of big things in that team we need to fix. I think we need to bring in a striker. I think we have to. I don't
a different type of striker.
Yeah. A focal point. We'll come on to that shortly. And I think we need to bring in a midfielder. I think we have to. Because look, we talk about I think Sam mentioned the other day, like we've got enough 10s, enough attacking midfielders. They don't do anything. They don't do anything, do they? So there's no point. So but I think also the shopping is also taking some stuff back to the shops that you got previously, and whatever that is, you've got to have the ability to club to move on players. I'm not saying it's easy as it is, but we've got to have some honest conversations back to that point before, make the tough decisions to say to players like, be it McGinn, whoever it is, Cash, whoever, I don't think you're good enough for this team. Find yourself a new club.
Yeah.
There needs to be some ins, there needs to be some outs, because Newcastle have proven what you can do. They made some good signings in that window, and and it did improve them. And I don't think we're in danger of relegation still, because I'm sure we'll get. But we're not far away at the moment. After can't get too carried away.
Yeah, well, I think the only thing that's saving us is that there's other teams that are dropping results all the time, and it's still very tight in there. But it's just we don't look like getting back-to-back wins. We don't look like winning away from home at the moment. So it's there's so much to be done. But hopefully he can see what he needs to do. And we talk about what Eddie Howe's done at Newcastle. He was working from a very low bar, wasn't he? Bruce before him, and then he's onto a win-win situation. We've got a situation here where Unai Emery is in a win-win situation because we can't really get much lower than where we are at the moment. Especially considering all of the talk that was given at the start of the season.
And I also think as well, in potentially the real high, which is why I'm referred to that point about Gerrard earlier, the high of the Brentford result. It's probably easy to say these players are all really good, and it was just Gerrard is the reason why they were bad. Well, it's been proven now Gerrard's had nothing to do with it, and you can say, "Oh, it's Gerrard's coaching," but actually, I think for Emery to really see the true picture, I wouldn't be surprised if you don't bother coming on Tuesday. I wouldn't be surprised if you don't turn up.
Yeah, we were saying that yesterday. We were saying it'd be the quickest resignation in managerial history.
Yeah.
We'll move on to the next point because Tiwan raises this. If we're going to sign a striker, Archer needs to go on loan. I won't have it this time. He's suffering on the bench. I hope Emery brings out the best in him and lets loose because he's so good. So yeah, your fourth point and probably one of the major ones, because if you don't score goals, you can't win games. And basically that is to sort the strikers.
Yeah.
And at the moment he's kind of playing Watkins from off out wide. Ings is down the middle. This is what seems to have been playing, but I assume everyone will have a clean slate. But what does Archer have to do to get an opportunity?
Yeah, but I think for Archer to play in that team as well, like you've got to be set up to play to that kind of striker. Be it a Michael Owen or a Francis Jeffers or that kind of like small, nippy, getting behind the defence type of striker. And Andy Johnson, obviously at Palace and Blues. That you got to set up to play that system. And generally, it was Owen worked really well with Heskey, didn't they?
Yeah.
Andy
Well,
Johnson
yesterday
would
all
have had the same.
Newcastle did was just defended a little bit deeper, and we couldn't get behind them, and we've
Yeah.
got no physical presence to win any sort of hold the ball up or win any knockdowns. So we're just so easy to play against. But yeah, what would you do to kind of sort that striker issue out in terms of whether it's the current personnel or whatever we can do with it?
Well, I was going to say, Aaron made a good point. You're brave to call them strikers. Aaron, I totally agree. I think, I tell you why they are strikers. The definition of people that take industrial action and don't turn up to work and basically like sit out all day. I think in that sense, they're absolutely strikers because it seems like they're on strike. So, yeah, but in terms of the football sense, Watkins has got 2 goals all season. Let's be clear, right? His touch isn't good enough for a player. I know he's played for England and I know he got 14 goals and then 11 and, credit, to that, but his touch isn't good enough. His finishing isn't good enough. And for a striker to play for a team that was aspirations to top 10, I just don't think he's good enough. He's work rate enough of a reason to keep him in the team. It does feel, and someone might give me stats to the opposite of this, but it feels like his work rate isn't what it was when Dean Smith was calling him the best pressing striker in the Premier League. And I don't know, is he not getting the work rate behind him to back that up? I don't know. Ings hasn't.
Gary said he's not been the same since Grealish has left, and I think that's a massive part of it.
Yeah. Ings is not played as much, but is he the answer on his own? Do we need, as we said, that focal point type striker? And look, Emery will have a system he wants to play, and I don't know the ins and outs of what that will be. And it might be that he doesn't want that kind of striker. He wants to just bring in a better version of Ings, Watkins, or Archer. It remains to be seen. But I look at that. So I don't really know what the answer to this is. It depends what our new manager wants to do in terms of how he wants to play. But they've got to be dynamic. If they're going to be a striker, they've got to be able to finish. Or if they're going to be that support striker, then there needs to be a finisher next to them for them to work in tandem. Or if they're going to be more of an all-rounder, like a Callum Wilson or like a Watkins could be, then we need to see it. But I don't think it's just the strikers. I almost call this point sort of the attacking players out because, we sold all our wingers except for Bailey, who I didn't think he was great from what I saw. I thought, he had a couple of touches, but he was like overrunning the ball or, trying to do too much. And I still think he's been a massive, massive disappointment since we signed him. Buendia, 13 games, one. I think he's got he got 1 goal? Coutinho, 12 games, 0 goals, 0 assists. Nowhere near good enough. Jacob Ramsey he's a young player, hasn't looked anywhere near the player he was when he was banging in 6-7 goals last season. And it's funny actually. I wasn't planning on doing a loan watch. Philogene Bidet scored an absolute cracker for Cardiff. I don't know if you've seen the goal. Really good.
People were telling me about it. Yeah.
Great footwork in the box. Great and a great finish. Aaron Ramsey got a couple of goals, didn't he, for Norwich as well? Aaron Ramsey banged in a couple. I just don't think our attacking play generally is good enough. We used to rely on McGinn to get goals in the Championship, didn't we? It was always seen as that was a big part of his game. Louise has got a good strike on him, generally from set piece corners, but like we haven't got who looks like scoring in our team. Who would you be scared of?
Yeah. I don't know. It's like you say. I mean, but then you look at last week and you think, well, all four of those strikers, we were buzzing. Like we knew it was too much, didn't we? We knew it was too much to get 4 positive pods in a row. We just knew it was. But yeah, we were all buzzing about those 4 attacking players. Buendia, Bailey, Watkins, and Ings. And then now we're saying that they're completely impotent. It's the inconsistency that's the issue, isn't it? And I almost think that we need that strike force. Those 4 players are great at home, but then we need another four forward players for when we're away from home, who are just like big brutes who can knock teams over. Like we almost need to like transport Tony Pulis' Stoke in for away from home games, and then put the flair players in at home.
Yeah, I just if you've got players in that team that can go anywhere, I look at some of the way like Brighton have played, Fulham have played. Wherever they're going, they've got a bit of even Bournemouth, like bit of fight, a bit of heart, a bit of physicality. Getting stuck in. I just look at us and think like that we're so wanting in those areas. So therefore, the chances are few and far between. And the frustration I get with our attacking players is sometimes we get in good positions, but the decision making's poor.
Yeah, there was so many times in the first half where we could have had a shot, and they're trying to play the pass at the wrong time, and they're trying to take it round the man again after they've already took it round them, or they've got a position to cross and they just knock it to they're hitting it like to the Newcastle player when there's someone at the back post. They just need to stand it up. There's so many things where you just think, you just made the wrong decision.
Yeah.
But it's a basic moment. There was one yesterday where Buendia was through and he played it to Watkins to play a 1-2 with him. And Watkins, rather than just like playing a nice simple pass back to him, he like bobbled it and it was behind him and he just completely ruined and he would have been in.
Oh, it's so annoying.
It's just basic football.
Getting your touch. Anyone who knows anything about football, if you're receiving the ball, you want to try and, if you can, take the ball, if you touch towards the direction that you're going into. It's the most basic thing, rather than going back on yourself. These are Premier League footballers. The amount of times the first touch, Bailey's terrible for it. Bailey's first touch is horrendous from what I've seen generally. And therefore, then he's trying to do his great skills and tricks and flicks. And there was a couple of moments again. But I don't know. I just think that basics of football, ball comes to you, take a touch, pass it. There's also no zip in our passing, really. How often do we carve a team open? How often are we incisive with what we do? It's insipid, it's boring, and it's been a problem for a long time. And Ings, for whatever reason is, and whether we can build around him, hasn't solved that problem. Bailey was another one that was brought in to replace Grealish, and was as Buendia, and they haven't added anything.
That type of stuff should not have been said. It just should not have been said. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
But they just haven't added anything in terms of attacking prowess to the team to the level where we can compete in the Premier League. I mean, our record's horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. I mean, we know how bad last season was because we talked about the end of it, but all the stats with Gerrard about like terrible win percentage. We played 13 games, we're on -9. We've got 12 points. We haven't even got a point a game. If the season finished now, we'd probably stay up because there's probably 3 worse teams than us. How bad is that? How bad is that? It's literally like someone saying to you, I would leave you, but I don't think I'll get anybody better. It's just depressing. It's depressing. I tell you, one of the lads plays for my son's team. His mum was telling me side of the pitch. He's asked his dad for a Man City shirt. He's a Villa fan. He goes to the Villa games. I'm thinking you're going to lose this generation of kids if you don't sort your shit out. It was more fun in the Championship.
Oh,
guys,
it was class.
do you remember? Remember the Grim Reaper with the side outside the door? Another team, Rotherham. What a game that was! Bristol City at the 9th in a row. Millwall getting the 10th. and also there was more games. It was like, Saturday,
Well,
Tuesday,
winning's
Saturday.
enjoyable. It doesn't matter what league you're in. Winning's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. I mean, thankfully, I said to my son on the way out yesterday, I was like, "Oh, you sure you don't want to support Newcastle now?" And he's like, "No, Dad, I'm a Villa fan through and through. That's it." But he was like, "But can I have the day off school on Monday?"
Oh, bless him. Bless him. Bless him.
So yeah, but no, I was like, no chance. No, but he is, he's still Villa through and through. Just before we go on to the last point, mate, we're obviously going to do our draw very soon for one of the hoodie jackets, and thanks so much for the support. Obviously, we did it as a reward for us getting to 500 subscribers. We're actually at, I think it's 565 now, which is just crazy since the day that we announced it. But great bit of kit.
Thanks,
As
everyone.
I say, we've got loads of people entering. If you're watching and you haven't entered yet, all you need to do is very quickly, jump onto my 500 subscriber giveaway video. Drop a like on it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, which I'm sure you will be, and then just comment on that video, and I'll quickly get you into the draw. So yeah, please do that and get your name in the draw, and then we'll do it live on the show very shortly. Last point, mate. In terms of your 5-point plan, you did touch on this a little bit before, but it's that intensity and that belief in what we're doing. And picture here with like Mings, getting in Al Ghazi's face. I think that's a picture of a couple of seasons ago when we won in the last minute against Watford, and then obviously the Villa badge, with the prepared underneath. It's reconnecting that with the club, isn't it, mate? Really, and just like I say, having that team togetherness, it just seems to have gone a bit missing lately.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And look, I know we've probably touched on this point about 10 times today. We talk about it all the time. Sometimes it's hard because you think, I'm never going to be able to ever isolate a point on its own because I consistently talk about it. But I just think it's a really, really big thing. Back to that point, Eddie Howe, our intensity is our identity. The intensity of that team is one of the big reasons why they're getting some scalps. They're taking some scalps. Absolutely is. They're just non-stop. And from a perspective of skill set, you understand people are different. Man City are an intense team, aren't they? And their skill set's obviously, through the roof. Liverpool have dropped off this season, but it feels like their intensity has also dropped, and there's no surprise that therefore the results have dropped off. But we're too easy to play against. We don't dominate the ball. We don't play enough with the ball. We don't look like we want to win those second balls enough, and we see it occasionally in games. But I would love, if I was a professional football player, if I was happen to be blessed with skills, I'd love to play against Aston Villa. Because you're probably, if you're up for it, you're probably going to get a result. You're probably going to get chances. You're probably going to. Callum Wilson's not scored against Villa for 6 games. You knew it was going to happen. Like, I look at the kind of team that we are, and I just think we're a bit of an embarrassment sometimes with what we give our fans. And the minimum should be intensity. But I do think there's probably a deeper, more cerebral point that comes here, right? Which is the belief. Because it's all a good saying to someone, be better, work harder, be better, believe in yourselves more. But that has to be based on something. There has to be pillars that belief is based on. And often, it's past experience, but it's also looking at the skills that you've got. But also it's having a positive attitude. So I just hope that and the final one I think is your environment, what's around you. I just hope Emery can kind of get those 4 pillars and put them together and create a belief and an intensity and look at what Arteta's done with Arsenal, where they were on the floor. Arsenal where they were, rock bottom as well. Look what's happened to them. Look what's happened to obviously all the other teams that are doing well. Look how Fulham have improved. Look at Newcastle as a great example.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so many great comments coming in, really random reviews. Remember when Mings fought for a second ball just to keep it in play and end up scoring from it? That's making your own luck. You need some of that, and it's been missing. Yeah, little things like that. Simon, the press versus Brentford made life uncomfortable for them. Stood off and watched Newcastle. Where's our nasty bruiser who collects yellow cards and puts his foot in? Molly boy, we play a midfield of 3 and 9 games out of 10. We have no midfield. Yeah. You know, just that. You know, those little bits of nasty player or whatever it is. You know, running. What are the running stats? You know, it's just that, you know, just doing those bits that I think Mings might have said it in his post-match interview. You know, who's doing the dirty work, who's putting that, who is running the hard yards, who's doing the bits that you don't see, but who's doing that consistently enough. And that's probably a little slight on, you know, the character of some of the players.
Yeah,
You know, like I said, you know, Mings will make a mistake, of course he will, but at least he's 100%, man. You know, you can never say that he won't put 100% in.
Absolutely. I know
He throws his body in the way, he tries to win headers.
Yeah.
And that's all you ask for. I don't care if a player makes a mistake as long as they give it 100% every game.
Yeah, I think with Mings as well sometimes, because he's got such a languid style, and so it seems a bit relaxed. I think it belies actually sometimes the effort and intensity he does put in. Because I think actually Mings, I don't think you can fault him for that.
No.
I don't know if there's anyone else in the team that you could say it about. You know, I don't think there's anyone. And they go back to that point we said about the shopping, but you know, if you look at the squad, just to talk about that briefly, I know it's easy to try and throw the baby out with the bathwater, but I wouldn't be that bothered if we had a new right back. I wouldn't be that bothered if we had a new left back. I wouldn't say, oh my God, we need to keep Konza, we need to keep Bednarek, we need to keep Chambers. I wouldn't even say we need to keep Mings. I think Mings is really, really good, but you know, obviously we've got Carlos to come back, and is Mings going to be the partner? Yeah, the age is at now. Do we get some money on a player like Mings, or do we need him? Martinez has been a really good keeper for us. He's dropped off a little bit, but I don't think really Martinez is someone that I think I'm happy with Martinez stick around.
Yeah.
Midfield, I like Louise, and I think you know he's got potential and in the right system. I think he could flourish under Emery. I also wouldn't be bothered if we sold him for 35 million, if that's what we can get for him. Dendoncker, whatever. McGinn, whatever. Ramsey, I like Ramsey. He's a young lad. He's a Villa fan. He's from Great Bar, but is he good enough?
I was just going to say that we've had a few comments about Ramsey and whether people think he is going to be good enough. What is his ceiling essentially?
Well,
you know, what is his ceiling?
You said it a lot, mate. I remember you saying it when we were at Forest away, you know, and just after Forest scored, and you were like, Ramsey, mate, watch him. He's always on the edge of the game, and you're right. He's always on the edge of the game. You're absolutely right. He's good, and he's good running with the ball. Look, I think he's got time to develop, hopefully still, and I think, you know, we'll see where he goes. So I think he's someone. Coutinho, I think he's a busted flush, if I'm honest now. I'd like to think he can get back to their levels. Buendia, I think, has been too inconsistent. Bailey, we've discussed, and the strikers, other than Archer. I mean, honestly, it sounds crazy, but I'd probably get rid of 18 of the squad. But also know that...
It's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy.
But that's obviously not going to happen. But no. I honestly would.
It's crazy. Yeah. No, I agree. There's so much that needs to be done. And, you know, that's one of the things is getting a new coach in. You know, everybody is back to square one. Everybody's got to impress. And as Gary said, the team is on probation from now on. And that's the point. You know, he's got 3 games, or is it 3 or 4 games? Maybe one of them is in the cup to, you know, assess it. 3. And then Man
United, Brighton.
Yes, yeah. And then he's got, you know, 5 or 6 weeks to get his ideas into players. So it's actually, you know, not a bad time at all to be taking over. And I've heard rumours that they're going to go out to Dubai for some warm weather training. So, you know, like we've said so many times, it's in slightly different circumstances right now, but it's a bit of a pre-season for them.
They don't deserve it, mate. They don't deserve to go to Dubai.
No, they don't.
Send them to Helsinki.
Like, yeah, Gaza says a football manager reset needed. Yeah, don't save game. Just play game again.
When I was I like a random story. When I was 14 and 15, right, playing Sensible World of Soccer. What a game, Sensible World of Soccer. If anyone remembers that, I love that little game. My mum, we had a dodgy iron at home. And if she ever did any ironing, which wasn't that often, not that I think it's a woman's job, by the way, because I like to do my own ironing, right? But whenever she did the ironing, it would fuse all the switches. And I remember getting like deep into like the European Cup with Leyton Orient. I had Don Goodman up top with Freddie Bobic. And it all went like 7 hours of gameplay, rising from Division 4. So I do think sometimes we need that total reset of everything, don't we?
Yeah.
Sometimes it is a lot of hyperbole. You know, there's a lot of of bluster, a lot of fluff, a lot of it's all great. Well, actually, let's look at some real significant things in that club, and maybe there does. I think someone put about January fast. So I totally agree. I think maybe we could get rid of. And look, we're a business. We don't want to lose money. You've got to be tactical around this. You can't just be getting rid of people because a couple of guys and a few fans decide, the podcast decide to talk about it. But there's some significant changes that need to happen in that team, and I think we need all parts of the pitch, other than maybe goalkeeper. I don't know if Olsen's good enough. And I know we're judging him a couple of games.
No, I don't think he is. It's a tough one for a backup goalkeeper to come in that situation, but you could see that the communication was just way off. The kick-in was way off. There was just a lot of things that weren't. Yeah, it was bad. Maybe Tiwan's got a bit more of a kind of rational point of view. I think we should take a step back and don't be too reaction based on our comments. A good coach maybe can come in and get something out of a lot of our players. Just watch our faith. Look at
it's
Newcastle.
A good comment, and I hope you're right, Tim, and I hope you're right. And I know it's easy to be passionate about it. It's easy to be passionate. It's easy to get annoyed, but I think we've also seen this team for long enough now. A lot of these players, and I know Newcastle. Look, I would say some of those Newcastle players are outperforming, I think, what their ability is. I think a lot of our players are at a higher performance level, therefore are massively underperforming. Getting players at a certain level to improve is one thing. We've got to get our players back to their original level, let alone improving.
Yeah. Right. Just a quick. I think you wanted to do a quick. It's part of our Villa Park Pod tradition. An update on the women's team. So yeah, while I'm just quickly sorting out the comp, take it away, mate.
Yeah, it's well, unfortunately, we've had at the start of the season the positivity from the women's team, haven't we? In terms of when the men haven't been doing great. We had a great start to the season with the Man City win. Well, obviously, when we had a terrible result against Bournemouth, but not good news again today. Lost away at Chelsea 3-1. Chelsea are a good team, 3-1, and Rachel Daly scored again to equalise, but unfortunately Chelsea are a bit too strong. Chelsea a top 3 team. Villa have slumped a little bit now. I think that's 3 or 4 defeats on the spin. So yeah, still got 6 points from 5 games. So I think we'll probably be fine. But that promising start, unfortunately, has just dropped off a bit. So yeah, a bit disappointing. And I saw as well that Douglas Luiz ended up turning up to the game late, apparently. So
at least he turned up to that game.
Yeah.
No, I saw the goal from Rachel Daly. It was a pretty good goal, and by all accounts, I think Villa were in it.
Villa were in it. Yeah. So look, that team have they've only really been properly going for it the last couple of years. Obviously, getting Carla Ward in, and they've got some good players. And I think that league is. I think sometimes it can go either way. Sometimes there's clearly some standout teams in that league, but I think we've got some good players in that team. Can I just say, by the way, we've had the best part of this pod so far is his comment from AJ. I don't know if you've seen it. Where has Augustinsson gone? Will he be back by January, son? I mean, that's bravo. That's the best bit of this pod. This moody melancholy of the pod. It's I love a silly joke. So thanks for that.
Class. Right. Yeah. So I think we've covered it. So that's our 5-point plan for Emery to sort Villa out. Basically, we've done it. Just
let's go through the goals. Mate. Let's go through the goals, mate. Let's just go through the goals forensically, one by one.
No, let's not. So yeah, like I say, we're gonna do a live draw for all of the prize. But I just wanted to say, and I know you echo this as well, Kev. Since we started the channel off properly in August, the support has been amazing, and like we said the other day, the comments that are coming in, just brilliant. You guys make the show, and it's fantastic for us just to get all this interaction, and I hope it just continues to grow and grow and grow, because we're nearly at 600 already, and I think it was this time last week we reached 500. So yeah, fantastic. Actually, I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday, to be fair. So just 65 subscribers in the space of 4 days is just mad. So yeah, fantastic, guys. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. it helps us to keep doing more and more shows. We've got more ideas, we've got more things we want to do. So yeah, keep supporting us, keep spreading the word. It's just really good, really enjoyable to do. So yeah, just tremendous. So we hope to do more giveaways and more kind of prizes that we can. And any ideas that you guys have got you'd like us to do or like us to cover in the show, please just drop us a DM, follow us on Twitter, on Instagram or whatever, and let us know. So mate, I'm going to share my screen.
Oh, here we go.
Here we go.
You're not going to show that Joe Linton goal, are you, with the defenders? Oh no.
Well, the great defending. So we've got the names here. So we had quite a few entrances. So thank you very much to everyone who entered. I'm going to pick a random name now. So count me down, Kev.
Count now from what?
605. No,
644, 643. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Click.
Rachel is the winner.
Well done, Rachel.
Lewis, well done. So
Bravo.
Yeah, fantastic. Please drop us a message on Twitter or on wherever, on YouTube, Twitter, on either of our, on Villa Park Pod or at KTAVFC. Let us know your size or and we'll get that and your address, and we'll get that out to you. So thanks very much.
Rachel, am I right thinking you want Gerard on the back? Yeah, is that right? Is that a request? Yeah, maybe we'll leave that for you. Maybe we'll leave that.
But yeah, well done, and thank you for everyone who entered the comp. It was really good fun. Kev, great stuff, mate. Thank you for joining me. I'm sure we will be back. Is it Sunday we've got Man United?
Yeah. Sunday Man United we've got. Obviously, you've got in the League Cup not long after that as well. There'll be lots to talk about, obviously, with Emery's arrival on Tuesday. This exciting appointment of someone who's won the Champions League. So, looking forward to seeing Paul Lambert return as assistant manager. That'll be good fun. Or Jimmy Traore as his assistant manager. No, but I'm sure there'll be lots to chat about, like obviously the rhetoric that comes from Unai from his first press conference and some of the ideas. And I think obviously, remains to be seen what happens against Man United and what impact he can have that quickly. But there'll be plenty to talk about. So yeah, and just again, I know you said this before, but thanks everyone. I really, really appreciate the support. We honestly we don't take it for granted. We're all passionate about the Villa here, but we want to just try and obviously keep this going. So obviously, the more support we get, the more our name gets out there, the bigger the channel will grow, really. But yeah, we really, really appreciate it. And the comments make the show. So yeah, thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate it.
Brilliant. Right, I'm sure we'll be back. We'll either do some shorter shows covering the news across the week, and obviously we'll be back with a match preview Thursday or Friday, I'm sure. So yeah, keep your eyes and ears peeled for that. And as always, keep positive. New times, better times are just around the corner. And as always, everyone, please remember, we all follow the Villa. Thanks, everyone.
Cheers,
bye.